On the streets of Washington, D.C., a bomb blast kills a former ambassador and his young assistant. As the FBI investigation closes in on the bombers, the killers set their sights on the agents and their families. The FBI is caught up in a dangerous hunt for a cold-blooded murderer as they target one of the most highly skilled opponents they have ever faced, a bomber who orchestrates the death of a diplomat.
In the 1970s, South America faced a surge of political kidnappings and assassinations. When the killings spilled onto U.S. soil, it was time for the FBI to step in. I'm Jim Kallstrom, former head of the FBI's New York office. Agents struggled to pierce the closely guarded world of diplomats and assassins, trained spies and hired thugs, determined to stop a covert terror war waged by a rogue nation.
Washington, D.C., September 18th, 1976. A man prepares deadly revenge against one of his nation's fiercest critics.
Dear friends of Chile,
the intended victim is former Chilean ambassador Orlando Letelier. The outspoken socialist is in the U.S. condemning the military government of dictator Augusto Pinochet. The Pinochet government seized power 3 years earlier in a bloody coup. Letelier rails against the current Chilean regime for human rights violations and for stripping him of his Chilean citizenship. His outspoken criticism causes one European country to stop lending money to Chile. Just after midnight on September 19th, the bomber prepares to silence the diplomat once and for all. The radio-controlled bomb is secured under the driver's seat of Letelier's car. Now, all it needs is the right radio signal. 2 days later, Letelier drives to work. His assistant, 25-year-old Ronnie Moffat, rides in the passenger seat. Her husband, Mike, rides in back. The car soon arrives on Embassy Row.
It's an economic one.
Police protecting the embassies call for ambulances and rush to help. Orlando Letelier is barely alive. The bomb blew off his legs and blasted shrapnel through his torso. Ronnie Moffat, hit by flying shrapnel, fights for every breath. Mike Moffat, incredibly, escapes unhurt, although frantically worried about his wife. An ambulance rushes Letelier away just as the FBI arrives. Special Agent Carter Cornick.
When we got there, like all crime scenes, it was an absolute mess. I saw the car, and there was a woman on the side of the road being administered to. The next thing I actually heard through the din of all the noise was a young man screaming, "Dina did it." And I had no idea who or what Dina was.
Under the law, the FBI investigates all attacks against foreign officials. Agent Cornick takes charge of the case.
Well, the first thing that was to do was to get control of the crime scene. A crime scene is a unique thing. It's only there once. And what you do at that crime scene very often determines, ultimately, the outcome of the case.
Agent Cornick requests more agents, including FBI bomb experts, to collect and label every possible piece of evidence.
We had an enormous amount of help. We had more than 150 agents doing the crime scene. We actually had forensic experts doing the crime scene. And that part of the crime scene was actually run by the chief of the explosive unit at my request.
During the search, the FBI hears the tragic news from the hospital that Orlando Letelier and Ronnie Moffett have died. The case is now a murder investigation. At the U.S. District Courthouse, the U.S. Attorney decides this politically sensitive public assassination must be handled with the utmost care and urgency.
In this case, a U.S. attorney was assigned to the investigation from day one. That had never been done before, except in Watergate.
The U.S. Attorney assigns his most relentless prosecutor, U.S. Assistant Attorney Gene Proper.
It was a heinous murder, and I wanted to solve it to make sure that people knew you couldn't do it here. I don't care if Letelier was a socialist, a communist, or somebody on the far right. He was killed in a brutal way on the streets of the District of Columbia with a young woman, neither of whom deserved to die.
By the second day, investigators begin looking at possible motives for killing Letelier.
The primary motive from the beginning appeared to be a political assassination ordered by a foreign government. We had found out from the State Department that the military dictatorship of Chile was concerned that he had been personally responsible for stopping loans coming to the country.
Buenos Aires, Argentina. FBI Special Agent Bob Shearer does not want to tip off the Chilean government, so he talks with his contacts in Buenos Aires. He wants to find out if they have any information on whether Chilean intelligence may be involved. His Argentine source tells him about a secret program called Operation Condor. Intelligence agencies from right-wing South American countries have agreed to help each other watch left-wing activists and, if necessary, eliminate them. The official believes that Letelier's death may have been Condor's first kill. To get more information, the FBI turns to a U.S. State Department expert on Chile.
We need to know, and we need to know very frankly.
The expert tells them that Chile desperately needs American economic support.
International, but
The same morning of the assassination, the economics minister of Chile was getting off a plane at Dulles Airport to ask the U.S. government for economic aid to Chile.
The expert highly doubts that Chile would endanger its loans by killing Letelier.
So it was difficult for me to believe that a government would, on the one hand, order the assassination of this man, while on the other hand, trying to ask the U.S. government for aid.
2 weeks after the Letelier assassination, a commercial flight from Barbados to Cuba explodes. All 73 people aboard die. After the explosion, right-wing anti-Castro Cubans proudly claim credit. Because of the timing of the bombing of the airliner, investigators wonder if anti-Castro Cubans may have also had a hand in the assassination. Letelier was a socialist and an admirer of Fidel Castro. It seems like a long shot, but right now it's the only lead the agency has. Agent Cornick asks the FBI lab to compare the Letelier bomb against past anti-Castro Cuban bombs. Technicians have little to work with because the explosion destroyed most of the evidence. From what little remains, they determined that the bomb is unlike anything they've ever seen before. FBI Special Agent Larry Wack.
The lab came back and said basically the Letelier bomb doesn't match other right-wing Cuban bombs that we have examined already. We didn't want to hear that. That's the last thing you want to hear, that you don't have a match.
But because of the right-wing Cubans' history of assassinations, investigators can't entirely rule them out.
We were trying to keep an open mind that perhaps we have a new bomb maker on the set that we're not aware of.
Having hit a dead end, investigators set up a tip line to solicit information from around the world.
Thousands of leads, literally thousands of leads, came in by telephone. A special 1-800 number was established to handle the leads. We had leads coming in from Europe, leads particularly from Latin America.
One lead comes from a New York area reverend who says 3 Chilean intelligence agents flew out of New York shortly after the assassination. FBI Special Agent Larry Wack interviews the reverend.
And it was evident, in the first 5 minutes of the interview that this guy had seen nothing. So, of course, I'm trying to zero in on, look, who exactly saw these 3 Chilean agents?
The reverend got the tip from some friends, but he will not reveal their names.
I told the reverend, I said, look, get back to the people that supposedly saw this and get them in touch with us.
While he's waiting, Agent Wack heads to New York's JFK Airport. He follows up on the reverend's tip that Chilean agents flew out shortly after the assassination.
These items should be noted by the...
No one can confirm the story. The case stalls again.
There's nothing.
A few weeks later, Agent Wack says goodbye to his fiancée, who leaves for her job as an airline flight attendant. He has no idea he is not the only one who watches her go. In the airport parking lot, a threatening stranger confronts Wack's fiancée. The bombers are striking back, hitting the FBI close to home. A car bomb in Washington, D.C. kills former Chilean ambassador Orlando Letelier and his assistant. As the FBI begins investigating the murder, Special Agent Larry Wack's fiancée is threatened. The frightened flight attendant calls Agent Wack.
I was absolutely appalled that something like this would happen, that whoever it was didn't have the guts to come after me, that they had to go after her.
Agent Wack believes he must have interviewed someone close to the assassination.
I don't know what we did, but we struck a nerve somewhere. And now we got to go back and re-examine what we've been doing, and myself, particularly what I had been doing, who I had been talking to and so on, to see where this threat may have emanated from.
Agent Wack's fiancée helps create a sketch of the man who threatened her. Agents show the sketch to Chilean immigrants throughout New York, trying to find someone who recognizes the man. But no one seems to know him. Washington, D.C., 1 month after the bombing.
Clearly said in Townsend versus New York.
Assistant U.S. Attorney Gene Propper and FBI Special Agent Carter Cornick receive a possible lead.
We got 2 Chilean.
The State Department provides photos of 2 suspicious Chilean intelligence officers whose real names are unknown. A month before the Letelier killing, at the U.S. Embassy in Paraguay, 2 Chileans requested visas for what were obviously false passports. One of the men did not look Chilean, and the 2 openly admitted being intelligence agents. They claimed they needed the visas to attend a meeting with the CIA in Washington, D.C.
Well, I'll need to see your passport.
The ambassador decided to take the unusual precaution of secretly photographing the passports.
Thank you.
When the CIA denied knowing the 2 agents, the ambassador canceled the visas.
What do we know about these guys?
Investigators believed the photos could relate to their case.
Went in for their...
Wow, we
FBI Special Agent Carter Cornick.
We had these two photographs, but we didn't know who they were. If we could identify those two people, we could take the case a step further.
The mug shots, we got to roll through the books. We got to roll these guys.
A few days later, investigators get a lead that again points them to Cuba. A Venezuelan newspaper prints a story claiming right-wing Cubans based in the United States killed Letelier. It names the prime suspects as the Ayala brothers from New Jersey. Investigators know Enrique and Sanchez Ayala well. They are founding members of a violent anti-Castro group called the Cuban Nationalist Movement. They are suspects in several recent high-profile bombings, including a Russian ship in New York 5 days before the Letelier assassination, and an attempted bombing at the New York Academy of Music, where Cuban artists were set to perform. The FBI begins to wonder if the Ayala brothers also targeted Chilean socialist Orlando Letelier. In one of New Jersey's Cuban neighborhoods, an FBI agent tracks down Enrique Ayala to find out.
Brian, I'm with the FBI.
When the agent asks him where he was the day Letelier was killed, Ayala gives an odd reply.
That's my trump card. It's an ace up my sleeve.
Investigators in Washington, D.C. find his comments suspicious.
Well, I think there's precedent.
Assistant U.S. Attorney Gene Proper.
Right away, when you hear something like that, you begin to think, what's this guy want to hide?
Proper asks the FBI to serve Ayala with a subpoena to appear before the grand jury.
I told you.
In the United States, no citizen is obligated to talk to the police or the FBI. If the FBI comes up to you on the street, you can say, get lost. There is an obligation to testify before the grand jury if you're brought in by subpoena.
An agent heads out to serve Enrique Ayala with the subpoena.
FBI.
Ayala's wife says she doesn't know where he's gone. He's disappeared.
Ma'am? Hi, Special Agent.
Agents question anti-Castro Cubans demanding that they give up Ayala.
FBI?
The pressure finally gets to Ayala, who agrees to come in.
Coming in, please have a seat.
At Proper's office in Washington, D.C., Ayala proclaims he had nothing to do with Letelier's death. Investigators ask why he made the comment about an ace up his sleeve.
You might have some information.
Ayala says he was just joking, pulling the agent's chain.
Investigation? No, can't help me.
Proper grills Ayala before the grand jury. He denies any knowledge of the Letelier murder and takes the fifth when asked if he has recently traveled to Chile. New York City. A few days after Ayala's testimony, Special Agent Wack gets a call at home from a suspected anti-Castro bomber.
Do what?
He said that, I'm coming over to your house in a minute to talk to you.
Agent Wack fears he is in danger.
The big question was, how did he get my phone number? More importantly, how did he know where I lived? So I grabbed my neighbor, who was a New York City police officer, told him, grab your gun, come outside, and I told him what had happened, that I had gotten this phone call, and I don't know what's coming next. We hid outside in an alleyway, and within a period of about 3 minutes, here comes this nationalist guy at my front door.
Yeah, it's him. He recognizes me.
We had an altercation out in front of my residence where he was telling us, that they didn't have anything to do with the threat on my fiance, and, why don't you back off of our group? I pretty much told him that the next time you show up at my front door, you're going to go home in a body bag. I was extremely mad at this whole situation. I mean, it was bad enough that my fiance gets threatened, and now I got these bombers showing up at my front door, and you're like, what's next?
Far from backing off, Agent Wack cranks up the pressure. If the Cubans are nervous, the FBI must be close to finding their connection to the assassination, and possibly even the bomber. Agent Wack goes after the Cubans, hunting for anyone with information.
If you think you're going to intimidate the FBI into not investigating, you're making a mistake. You're going to make them investigate harder.
I don't know nothing about it.
The people he approaches give him the cold shoulder or even insult him.
Hey, get away from me.
But he continues to hunt for leads. Finally, 5 weeks after Letelier's murder, Agent Wack meets a former Cuban bomb maker who says he wants to talk. It could be a major break in the case. Or it could be a setup for a hit on an FBI agent who's getting too close to the truth. A powerful remote-controlled bomb kills former Chilean ambassador Orlando Letelier and his assistant in Washington, D.C. The FBI believes the key to the case may be hiding in the New York anti-communist Cuban community, an organization known for targeting outspoken socialists. FBI Special Agent Larry Wack doggedly hunts for leads until a former anti-Castro bomb maker tells him he wants to talk.
And the thing that he couldn't sleep with was he didn't care that Letelier died. He couldn't sleep with the fact that the girl was killed, Ronnie Moffett. And that's where he drew the line.
The bomb maker says he's heard that Enrique Ayala, the leader of a violent anti-Castro group, has met several times with a Chilean covert contact. He said the Cubans wanted support from the right-wing Chilean government. Agent Wack uses the information to question other informants. They tell him that Ayala has been seen meeting with a tall, blonde Chilean with a military bearing.
One informant was telling me that the nationalists were referring to him as El Flaco, or the tall, thin one.
Agent Wack has now confirmed the link between a Chilean agent and the Cuban nationalist movement.
Now you've got evidence of a Chilean agent in contact with the nationalists, and you've got the nationalists with a track record of bombings going back quite a few years. So, you know, it's starting to look like a duck and walk like a duck.
The FBI focuses their investigation on Chile. In Santiago, FBI Special Agent Bob Shearer follows up on Agent Wack's discovery of Enrique Ayala's link with Chilean officials. Chile's Interpol representative tells him that Ayala visited Chile 2 years earlier and may have met with the Chilean government or even the Chilean intelligence service. With this new information, Assistant U.S. Attorney Gene Proper subpoenas Enrique Ayala and 2 of his friends to appear once more before the grand jury. A few days later, Proper gets a death threat on his private line.
What's wrong?
Proper believes they must be doing something that's making a guilty party nervous.
That means we're doing it right.
But instead of backing off, Proper and FBI Special Agent Carter Cornick step up their investigation.
We decided we're taking the 5th.
They bring in Enrique Ayala, who says he and his 2 friends will take the 5th in front of the grand jury and refuse to answer any questions. Investigators must continue to search for some way to crack open the case and get someone to talk.
Gentlemen?
FBI Special Agent Carter Cornick.
This thing is dragged on now, nothing happened, but it's not coming to a head. How the hell do we get on track?
A month later in New York, the Secret Service calls in FBI Special Agent Larry Wack. They've arrested a counterfeiter who specializes in making fake IDs who wants to cut a deal. He claims to know of a plot by the Ayala brothers to kill the U.S. Attorney General and prosecutor Eugene Proper. After months of investigation, this could be the break in the case the FBI has been waiting for. The break that will finally lead them to the bombers. In Washington, D.C., a remote-control bomb kills a former left-wing Chilean ambassador and his assistant. In New York, 8 months after the assassination, a counterfeiter contacts the FBI. He provides fake IDs to an anti-communist Cuban group suspected of the bombing. The counterfeiter claims to have inside information and wants to cut a deal with FBI Special Agent Larry Wack.
He laid out a situation that he was in the process of making up false driver's licenses and passports and whatnot for some of the guys in the nationalist movement. You know, your first assumption is this crowd's getting ready to take off. They're going underground.
The counterfeiter says the Cuban nationalists told him that if their leader, Enrique Ayala, goes to jail, they will kill the U.S. Attorney General and Assistant U.S. Attorney Gene Proper, the prosecutor on the case.
Well, what you're saying is
Agent Wack offers to speak to the Secret Service on the counterfeiter's behalf if he will inform on Enrique Ayala and his brother Sanchez.
okay, and you're willing to follow through on this?
The counterfeiter reluctantly agrees. He says he's supposed to meet with Sanchez Ayala soon to deliver a false ID. The night of the meeting, Agent Wack watches from hiding. The counterfeiter arrives carrying a false ID hidden in a magazine.
We were able to corroborate a lot of what he was telling us without him knowing it.
When they see Ayala exit the restaurant with the same magazine, the FBI knows that their new informant told the truth about working with the Ayalas. Maybe the Ayalas can lead them to their Chilean contact. Proper again calls Enrique Ayala into court, but he fails to appear. FBI agents can't find him anywhere. He's become a fugitive. This only adds to investigators' belief that he played a role in Letelier's assassination. 2.5 weeks later, the investigators' inside man delivers more fake IDs to Sanchez Ayala. At the end of the meeting, Sanchez rips $1 in two and gives the counterfeiter half. Sanchez says that a tall, blonde Chilean may contact the counterfeiter with the other half of the bill.
You know, this was turning into a James Bond spy novel here with the $50 bills and everything, the way this thing was going. But there was that tall, blonde Chilean again that we already heard about surfacing. He was this continuous, elusive guy.
The FBI doubts this mysterious Chilean intelligence agent will come all the way to America again to meet with their counterfeiter. Chilean intelligence can fabricate their own high-quality fake IDs. Agents follow Sanchez Ayala to Miami, hoping he will lead them to his fugitive brother. But after days of trailing Sanchez, they lose him. 2 weeks later, the FBI gets an unlikely break when a tall, blonde Chilean approaches the counterfeiter. At first, the Chilean casually chats with him about motorcycles. But before he leaves, he says that a friend of Enrique Ayala's will be in touch for more false IDs. When he hears about the tall, blonde Chilean, Agent Wack arranges an urgent meeting with the counterfeiter. Agent Wack shows the counterfeiter a photo layout, including a passport photo of a Chilean intelligence agent who tried to get into the U.S. using the false name Juan Williams.
Showed him the pictures, and he goes right to the Williams photo, and he says, "This is the guy that I met, absolutely no question about it."
Investigators finally have a name to link to the mysterious stranger. They go to Chile to try and learn all they can about the man who calls himself Juan Williams. In Santiago, FBI Special Agent Bob Shearer discovers that no one named Juan Williams works for the government or the armed forces. Washington, D.C. It It has been 1 year since the assassination of former left-wing Chilean ambassador Orlando Letelier and his assistant Ronnie Moffett. Investigators believe the right-wing anti-Castro Cubans working with people inside Chile's intelligence agency possibly orchestrated the murder. Assistant U.S. Attorney Gene Proper tries to make sense of the lead so far.
The case started to slow down in mid to late 1977 because while we had this information, we didn't really have a whole lot of proof. And we were trying to get information from Chile without a lot of success.
Investigators decide to approach the Chilean government directly and demand information on the intelligence agent who is meeting with Cuban bomb makers in the U.S. and uses the false name Juan Williams.
Chile's got what appears to be a bona fide intelligence agent running around with a bunch of bombers in the United States, and this is going to be very embarrassing for Chile. They better have a good answer for this one.
In Santiago, Chile,
What is it that I can do for you today?
Agent Shearer tells a Chilean official that the FBI wants to interview Juan Williams and another intelligence agent who also applied for a U.S. visa using a false name.
You're quite sure? We have some photos of them.
The U.S. could prosecute both men for filing for a visa with a fake passport.
Men
The Chileans say they will look into it.
But we have a very large organization.
After waiting a month with no reply from Chile, Proper files court papers with an unsealed cover letter that includes the agents' false names and implies they played a major role in Letelier's murder. If the Chilean government masterminded the killing, Proper intends to hold them accountable.
I summarized what I thought the evidence would show and put it in a letter that was outside the package. Nobody had ever seen that done before, and the State Department sort of laughed about it. But I thought when that became public, and I made sure it became public because it was not a sealed document, the Chileans would panic and would start to hear things. Then what happened is the photographs which were in there sealed leaked to the press.
News stories hit front pages all over the world, accusing the Chilean intelligence service called DINA of the killing.
And the Chileans went crazy because all of a sudden it was saying DINA was involved with the Cubans in killing Letelier. Didn't say 100%. And the Chileans started calling us. They wanted a meeting with the Secretary of State. They wanted a meeting with the Attorney General.
The newspaper articles unleash a flood of tips for the FBI. One newspaper identifies the mysterious blonde intelligence agent known as Juan Williams.
You can see on the screen there.
In a shocking twist, it reveals that he was born in the U.S. The FBI is stunned. Could it be possible that the Chilean assassin is an American? While the FBI investigates the 1976 car bomb killing of Orlando Letelier and his aide Ronnie Moffett, newspapers all over the world pick up the story of two Chilean intelligence officers suspected of the killings. When the story breaks, the FBI gets word that a newspaper has identified the intelligence agent known as Juan Williams.
Juan Williams.
What do you know? One Chilean newspaper just
It appears he's an American.
Michael Townley.
All right, run that name through U.S. passport and on the horn right away.
FBI Special Agent Carter Cornick.
When it turned out one of them was a U.S. national, that made our position so much stronger. And why was a U.S. national working for the Chilean intelligence service?
The U.S. Passport Office reports that there is a Michael Townley who matches the description of the blonde intelligence agent, currently registered as an American living in Chile. He's 36, born in Iowa, but grew up in Chile. Agents head to Fort Lauderdale to follow up another tip, that Juan Williams is really a man named Kenneth Einart. He's been buying electronic surveillance equipment for the Chilean government. At an electronics store that sells hidden microphones, phone taps, and other high-tech surveillance equipment, the store owner identifies the Juan Williams passport photo as Kenneth Einart. The owner provides records showing that Einart shopped at the store the day the bomb killed Letelier. He also provides an official letter from the Chilean government authorizing Kenneth Einart and Michael Townley to make purchases on their behalf. The FBI now believes that Kenneth Einhart is an alias for Michael Townley, and that the Chilean government is somehow involved in the killing. Now, the FBI has their first solid suspect in the case. The next day in New York, FBI Special Agent Larry Wack meets with a counterfeiter turned informant. He's been watching a group of anti-communist Cuban nationalists the FBI suspects of working with the government of Chile. Agent Wack wants to know how they are responding to the news that the FBI has identified their Chilean contact, Michael Townley.
Everybody in the exile community with the nationalists and everywhere else went scrambling. It was like, uh-oh, cat's out of the bag. They know who he is. And it was time to run.
Agent Wack pressures the counterfeiter to set up a meeting with a key Cuban nationalist suspect before he runs.
I told the counterfeiter, I said, just tell him flat out that I came to see you. I found out that you're hanging with the nationalists again, and that I paid you a visit, and you're getting subpoenaed to the grand jury.
The plan works, and the counterfeiter meets with the suspect to ask his advice.
They ask you to testify.
The suspect tells him to take the fifth and say nothing.
To plead the fifth.
The counterfeiter keeps asking why.
Because we did it.
We did it, meaning Letelier. We did it. We know it. They know it. Let them prove it. Which is exactly what we wanted.
The FBI now has an informant's claim that a nationalist confessed. But they still need some physical evidence linking the Cubans with Michael Townley.
We couldn't connect him to the murder. We had no evidence he was involved in the murder, but we certainly believed it because he was the blonde Chilean who was dealing with the Cuban nationalist movement that internally had said they're involved in the Letelier murder, and they were now fleeing. They were running from us.
Assistant U.S. Attorney Gene Proper and FBI Special Agent Carter Cornick tried to fit together the evidence.
You know, it's one thing to have a source who you may or may not trust 100% tell you one thing. It's another thing to have, actual proof.
Investigators desperately need someone to cooperate and confess to what happened. They hope it will be Michael Townley, but the agents have to find him first.
The next step was to go to Chile and to try to, in some way, force the government of Chile to cooperate with us in the investigation. The fact that these two men had applied for false passports to come to the United States a week before the assassination was of real interest to us.
Over the next 2 weeks, Proper and the U.S. government put tremendous pressure on Chile. Proper prepares official letters through the World Court requesting the chance to talk with Townley.
I took him to the chief judge in Washington, and he signed the documents. He asked me how the case was going. I'll never forget this. He said, "How's the case going?" I said, "It's a very tough case, Judge. It's just very tough." He said, "I know that." He said, "But God makes people who do things like this make mistakes. All you've got to do is find the mistakes."
To find the mistakes, Proper has to get to Townley. But the prosecutor is still getting resistance from the Chilean government.
I'm sorry.
Then the Chilean government said, "This is going to make the government fall. We can't give over an intelligence officer." We said, "He's an American. He committed a crime in the United States. We want him."
We were not allowed access to people that we wanted to have access to, members of the Chilean intelligence service. But at the same time, other Chilean officials were cooperating with us quietly.
Behind the scenes, the Pinochet government quietly cuts a deal with the U.S. They will hand over Townley if the U.S. promises not to use his testimony against Chile. The U.S. agrees. The next day, Chilean police take Michael Townley for a drive. He hopes that the intelligence service will protect him, perhaps even reward him with a long vacation in a remote area.
Just take me far, get out of here, huh?
He has no idea what is really waiting for him.
On vacation, huh?
Chilean intelligence agent and bombing suspect Michael Townley thinks he's about to embark on a vacation. But FBI agents are waiting at the airport for authorities to turn him over. FBI Special Agent Carter Cornick.
There was an Air Ecuadoriano flight going from Chile to New York. And the plane was held by the Chilean government on the runway until we got there. Townley was turned over to us. He was disoriented. He was afraid. He could not believe that the Chilean government had betrayed him.
On the flight, Townley refuses to talk without a lawyer. Once in the U.S., the FBI holds Townley at the Marine base in Quantico, Virginia. They suspect him of murdering a Chilean diplomat and enlisting right-wing Cubans to help him. But the only real charge they have against him is using a fake passport. Townley meets with his attorney, while Assistant U.S. Attorney Gene Propper prepares for plea negotiations.
And it's going to be very difficult because we really don't have a murder case against Townley. We still did not have any case against Michael Townley except the passport violation case.
Miami, Florida.
Hey man, hold up. That's Ayala.
Agents get a break when an alert Miami police officer spots one of the men linked to Townley in the murder, Cuban nationalist leader Enrique Ayala.
You're Enrique Ayala, aren't you? No, sir. Please take off your sunglasses. These are my identification, sir.
Seguro que sí.
Agent Cornick and Prosecutor Propper use Ayala's arrest and the arrests of other nationalist suspects to pressure Townley.
Enrique Ayala has been arrested.
We went to Townley and his lawyer and said, your time's about out. We've just rolled the Cubans up. We're going to make the deal with the first person who's willing to talk to us. We knew the Cubans would never talk, but we didn't tell that to Townley and his lawyers. Townley has to think we know what happened. We singled him out and brought him to the United States. He has to worry that we have more information than he knows about. But all we had on Michael Townley was a passport violation and knowledge that he had met with the Cubans. But unless the Cubans talked or Townley talked, we didn't have enough to bring a case against anybody.
Don't worry, Michael.
After hours of negotiation, Townley agrees to cooperate in exchange for a 10-year sentence. Townley reveals that he worked as a highly skilled agent and assassin for Chilean intelligence.
He worked for the Chilean secret police, which was run by a general, and he viewed his assassinations as legitimate orders from his government. The Chilean secret police wanted Letelier dead because Letelier was viewed as a spokesman who was in the United States and creating a fuss against the Pinochet government. He was meeting on Congress with senators, he was talking around the world, and the Pinochet government was a very repressive, right-wing government, and Letelier was very well-spoken, and he was causing them some grief.
This was not Townley's first assassination.
Given an order, military operation, and that's what...
As an expert in electronics and bomb making, Townley helped commit assassinations in South America, North America, and Europe.
This man, without question, was the most dangerous man I have ever met. This is a man who bragged about his role in building bombs that killed other people. And the justification? Letelier was a soldier, I was a soldier.
Townley says he made a bomb in a motel room and attached it to Letelier's car at night. The Cubans were anxious to create ties to the right-wing Chilean government and agreed to help. Townley arranged for the Cubans to set the bomb off. He then flew to Florida, leaving 2 of the Cubans with a remote control. He says he doesn't know who pushed the button.
The Cubans had no interest in Mr. Letelier. They wanted a relationship with the Chilean secret police for several reasons. Chile could give them sanctuary when they were in trouble in the United States. They had a very similar political ideology, was very right-wing. And they could get, they thought, material support, maybe money, from Dina.
To prove Townley's story to a jury, the FBI buys an identical car and has him build an exact copy of the bomb.
All of this was filmed by the FBI so that it could be used at trial, actually to placing the bomb up underneath the car. All of the components were identical, the car was identical, and the question was, would the results be identical? We didn't know.
Stand by for detonation. 3, 2, 1.
When the dust cleared, I looked at the car that had just been blown up. It was the same car that I had seen 2 years ago in the crime scene. I could not believe it. I turned to look at Mike Townley. Mike Townley's face was ashen. He turned to me and said, "I'd like to leave." I had 2 of the other agents take him back to the car.
Townley was somebody who had been involved in several murders, but never close up. He always did it at a distance. He never saw the victim. He was a soldier. He was told to assassinate somebody. He put a bomb somewhere. He did something, but he didn't do it close up. And when he saw the effects of it, he was apparently very affected by it.
2.5 years after the Letelier assassination, the Ayala brothers and an associate go on trial. The photos of the 2 blown-up cars provide the crowning piece of evidence.
The resemblance was remarkable. At the end of 7 weeks of trial, the jury, when it deliberated, asked for 2 pieces of evidence. One were the pictures of the cars. An hour later, they came back guilty on all counts.
The court sentences Enrique and Sanchez Ayala in the murder plot. But in a retrial, their convictions are overturned on a technicality. Over the next 20 years, 2 other anti-Castro nationalists and 3 Chilean officials end up serving time for the Letelier killing. FBI agent Carter Cornick sees Letelier's murder as a tragic misunderstanding.
I think he was assassinated for 2 reasons. One, for what he had done, which was stopping government Dutch loans to Chile. And 2, they perceived him as a threat, which in reality he was not. The Chilean military believed that Letelier was forming a government in exile in the United States. It was simply not valid. It's just paranoia.
Documents uncovered after the fall of Chilean dictator Augusto Pinochet would later confirm that the Chilean government ordered the death of Letelier. The FBI's relentless pursuit of the killers solved a difficult case and put rogue nations on notice.
I think it sent a message to other governments considering extraterritorial sanctions, assassinations. Think twice before you do it.
In 1996, Spokane, Washington is gripped by a series of violent robberies and bombings. The FBI links the crimes to a radical group determined to overthrow the government. Facing deadly traps and a nearly invisible foe, investigators vow to stop the shadowy extremists, ready to unleash more domestic terror.
Constitution of the United States allows for the lawful expression of any belief. But when a paramilitary faction used bombs and robbery to further their cause, they crossed the line. The well-organized terror cell was difficult to define and even harder to stop. I'm Jim Kallstrom, former head of the FBI's New York office. As the group stockpiled weapons for an assault, the FBI and local police were determined to bring them to justice.
Spokane, Washington, a city of 200,000 near the state's eastern border with Idaho. On Monday, April 1st, 1996, 24 people were working inside a satellite office of the city's Spokesman Review newspaper. At 2:30 p.m., a van pulled up behind the building. It was there, less than 15 seconds. Inside, a reporter had finished his work and was looking forward to spending the afternoon with his son. They did not realize what was waiting for them outside. Despite significant damage to the building, nobody was injured. Units from the Spokane County Sheriff's Department responded to the 911 calls. The reporter and his son had not seen anything suspicious. But one employee said that seconds before the blast, she saw a masked man jump into a white van that sped away from behind the building. She didn't get a license plate number. While much of local law enforcement was at the newspaper office, a white van pulled up outside Spokane's U.S. Bank several miles away. It had been 15 minutes since the newspaper bombing. 2 armed, masked men burst into the bank and announced they were robbing it.
Okay, people, this is a robbery! Move!
As they passed her, one teller tripped the silent alarm.
Stay where you're at! Move it! Stand.
The robbers threatened to detonate a pipe bomb if anyone disobeyed their orders.
Take the cash out and fill the bag up.
They warned the teller not to give them dye packs, paint canisters designed to explode and stain stolen money, and bank robbers. Once the gunmen had their money,
You, over there, and you.
they herded everyone into a corner.
Move it now! Okay, folks!
They trained their guns on the hostages, allowing valuable seconds to tick by as the fuse burned. At the newspaper office crime scene, investigators heard radio reports about the bank robbery and explosion. That scene was secure, so several detectives headed to the new crime scene. And the sheriff's office dispatched more deputies to the bank. At the time, Special Agent Mark Cullinan of the FBI's Spokane Resident Agency was on his way to the newspaper bombing with his partner.
While en route, we received a call that a bank robbery had occurred. Another bomb had been set off inside the bank. Since my primary investigative jurisdiction was bank robberies, I immediately diverted to the bank.
The employees and customers were shaken, but safe. They believed everyone had gotten out before the blast.
I mean, that roof's gonna go.
But investigators had not yet declared the crime scene secure. Explosives Disposal Unit Supervisor Sergeant James Goodwin had to make sure it was safe for police to check the building.
We were concerned about the possibility of a second device because any time you have an explosive device related incident, if you have one, there is always at least a potential that you have another.
Bombers sometimes leave a second device behind as a booby trap, specifically to target law enforcement. The Explosives Disposal Unit swept the bank, determining it was clear of additional bombs or victims, and radioed to those outside that it was safe to process the scene.
Okay, it's all clear.
You gonna get on the phone and see what we can get?
The assailants were fast and organized, getting in and out in seconds and making off with $50,000. They weren't typical bank robbers.
Bank robberies are usually conducted by lone individuals who are seeking money to support a drug habit or something along those lines. To have somebody in an organized manner come in and take over a bank with this much violence and prior planning is an unusual occurrence.
Agents questioned one witness who was in the bank's parking lot when the robbery took place. She said after the explosion, she saw two masked men run from the bank and get into a white van. A third man was driving. He had gray hair and a beard.
It was a white van.
White van. They both had masks on.
She had written down the van's license plate number.
And when they drove off, I looked back over after writing this down, and I saw the guy put on the black mask.
Yeah, we need to be on the lookout for all.
They learned it had been stolen from Ellensburg, Washington.
Charlie 504, I'll be checking the parking
Spokane Emergency Dispatch issued an APB for the van, and officers began a block-by-block grid search of nearby streets. At the newspaper office, FBI agents arrived and questioned the witnesses.
Did you ever see that second guy take the mask off?
The woman who saw the van there also mentioned that the driver was an older man with gray hair and a beard. But the most distinct clues linking the two crime scenes were leaflets containing religious propaganda, a common sight in the area.
At the scene of the Spokesman Review bombing and also at the bank, we did discover numerous leaflets which had obviously been left there by the robbers. Religious propaganda is pretty prevalent throughout the area. A lot of times these groups will leaflet a neighborhood or an area, leaving them under windshield wipers and on front doorsteps, just spouting their ideals and trying to get their message out.
But this group delivered their message with bombs and bank robbery.
Charlie 504, I've located
Sheriff's deputies continued their search for the getaway van.
plate 2233 Union.
90 minutes after the bank robbery, one deputy spotted it in a parking lot a mile from the bank. From the back, he couldn't tell if the robbers were there. No one was inside. Dispatch advised the deputy that the van could be rigged with a bomb. The explosives disposal unit arrived in minutes. They knew the suspects might have booby-trapped the vehicle. If there was a bomb in the van, its trigger device could be radio controlled. Since police radios can set off such triggers, investigators ordered all radios turned off. Because they had enough open space to do so, they used a robot with a camera to check the van first.
We initially sent the robot downrange in an attempt to look into the van. We found that we were limited in what we could see, and we sent a technician downrange near the van in a bomb suit.
The others waited in the mobile command center for the technician's report. Even in the most dangerous situations, bomb technicians need to keep their hands uncovered in case they have to perform delicate tasks. It is an unavoidable risk of the job.
He smelled gasoline, saw what he thought to be gasoline coming from underneath one of the doors to the van, and saw what appeared to him to be a time delay device that appeared to be intended to ignite the gasoline.
Since the trigger was a time delay, not radio controlled, it was safe to resume using radios. Attached to the wick, the technician saw a small initiator, an element that sets the wick burning.
And cousin incendiary in that route.
And what would you like to do with it?
Well, look at this. I can probably ready safe it.
Mark, before you go ahead and separate the two, would you let us know that you're going to do it?
In an effort to preserve any evidence the van might contain, the bomb squad technician was putting his own safety in jeopardy.
Okay, go ahead and make the cut. All right, good, get it out of there.
It worked.
Okay, he's got it out of there.
In the van, investigators found another copy of the manifesto the robbers left behind at the bank in newspaper bombings.
Right down here at the hands here.
To FBI Special Agent David Bedford, the rhetoric in the letter was typical of white supremacist militia groups in the area.
That was more or less a long religious sermon about usury, a biblical term referring to the charging of interest. And the thing that stood out most about this letter that was left behind was a symbol on the page.
Compare with this one right here.
Agents knew they could get help analyzing the manifesto from a Spokesman Review reporter. Bill Moreland is an expert on extremist groups in the area.
For the past 22 years, I've covered hate groups here in our area in the Northwest. Chief among them, the Aryan Nations, which is 35 miles from Spokane in North Idaho. It's attracted a lot of different extremists from different movements, anti-tax movement, anti-abortion movements, the Ku Klux Klan, Posse Comitatus.
The FBI showed Moreland the robbers' manifesto.
It was clearly white separatist dogma, but what intrigued me most was what was on the bottom of that note. It was the Christian cross superimposed with a capital P, and it's what I knew to be the logo of the Phineas Priesthood.
Individuals who call themselves Phineas priests say the crimes they commit are in accordance with their interpretation of God's law, sometimes robbing banks to finance a plot to overthrow the federal government. Moreland told agents about an interview he had done months earlier. As part of a story, he'd arranged to meet several members of an extremist group at a clandestine location. They did not identify themselves as Phineas priests, but they professed some similar beliefs.
When we got there, we saw 7 or 8 individuals who were heavily armed, automatic weapons, street sweeper type shotguns, sidearms, all dressed in Army camouflage type material. They went through a number of exercises for our benefit.
The The men explained they worked in cells with no formal leader, no strict organization. This leaderless resistance was designed to make it difficult for law enforcement to track them. They said they were preparing for an armed confrontation with the federal government.
I said, well, what happens if you're driving home from this event, from this training exercise, with all your guns and your military equipment? If a police officer were to stop you on a traffic offense, what would you do? And the individual I was talking to said, didn't hesitate for a minute. He said, I would kill him. I'd kill the police officer. When we're equipped like this, he said, we're running hot, and we would shoot to kill any police officer that stopped us to protect the identity of our group.
Agents believed the bank robbers they were after were every bit as dangerous and elusive. After masked men robbed a bank in Spokane, Washington, and detonated bombs at the bank and a newspaper office, authorities suspected well-armed extremists who called themselves Phineas Priests. Spokesman Review newspaper reporter Bill Moreland is an expert on extremist groups in the Pacific Northwest. The FBI asked him for details about self-professed Phineas Priests, known to commit violent crime in the name of religion.
They're secret groups, and they come together with 5 or 6 or 7 of their fellow people that are fellow believers and decide to carry out some sort of action. They don't tell the world about it, and you can't look them up in the phone book or on the internet. They're very secretive. They believe that God is one of their members and that they're following his directions to carry out these crimes that they commit.
Special Agent David Bedford was part of the team investigating extremist groups in the area.
Hey, here's one more thing. I wonder if you get a chance later on.
They found nothing related to the recent bombings.
We had very few leads to go by after the robbery. The individuals were masked, they wore camouflage clothing, they wore gloves. Very few leads to work with, other than a composite drawing of the getaway driver.
The FBI hoped to have more than a vague drawing before going to the public to reduce false leads that take up time and resources. But they could not wait any longer.
So what we did was publish that and sent copies all around Washington, Oregon, Idaho, with the idea, with the hopes of someone identifying this person.
Information that was called in was filtered through the FBI's Rapid Start program, a database system designed to collect and organize large numbers of leads so they can be prioritized.
Actually, I do see it's just south of...
We received hundreds and hundreds of tips or possible leads of who this individual was. And so a team of agents would go out and investigate all of these people who came in that were lookalikes.
One by one, they eliminated suspects.
James Johnson, no longer suspect.
Despite spending hundreds of man-hours following every viable lead, investigators came up with nothing. The case stalled until the assailants struck again. On July 12th, 3 months after the first attacks, a woman spotted a masked man placing a bomb in front of a Spokane health clinic. She called in the getaway van's license plate number. Spokane's 911 call center dispatched fire and police personnel to the scene.
Baker 504. I'll be checking the area.
Like a dozen others, Deputy Dan Spivey of the Spokane Sheriff's Office started off toward the clinic. What the deputies didn't know was that the U.S. bank that was robbed in April was being hit again. This time there were 3 masked gunmen instead of 2. Like the earlier robbery, the assailants had a bomb. One teller recognized the voice of one of the robbers. and set off the silent alarm as she loaded up.
Hurry up! Let's go! Now!
The men moved efficiently, spoke in code, and seemed to be timing the robbery. They didn't notice the drive-through teller who worked in a separate part of the bank.
Zip it up, please!
While those inside the bank were staring down the barrels of guns, everything appeared normal to customers on the outside.
Hello?
Hoping the robbers had not heard the customer over her loudspeaker,
Hello?
the drive-through teller tried to get him to help. She didn't know if the customer understood her gestures, if he would help or run. Deputy Spivey was almost to the clinic when he got a more urgent call.
Baker, 504, I copy.
I heard a bank robbery in progress come out at the same U.S. bank that had been robbed on April 1st.
But before deputies arrived, one of the assailants announced they were at Code Blue, and they left, taking $37,000 in cash and the bomb with them. The drive-through customers saw the men get in their van. He decided to tail them and called 911 as he drove. The plate he reported did not match the one from the health clinic, but criminals often put two different plates on stolen vehicles to confuse investigators.
On East Gray Street. Hold on while I call dispatch.
Spokane Emergency Dispatch advised the man not to put himself in danger. He said he would follow at a safe distance until deputies caught up. Police hoped the customer would not be spotted by the armed assailants. In July 1996, authorities believed members of an extremist militia group robbed the U.S. Bank in Spokane, Washington for the second time in 3 months. A customer saw the robbers leave in a van and followed. Deputy Dan Spivey was en route to the bank when he heard about the pursuit.
Our dispatch advised us that a citizen with a cell phone was following that suspect vehicle, and they in turn were relaying location information to us field deputies.
Spivey changed directions to try to catch up. The customer gave constant updates on his location, but had a hard time keeping up with the suspect's van while not being spotted.
Behind a mall area, the citizen lost the vehicle. And I quickly searched the area, attempting to locate such a vehicle. Was unsuccessful. Decided to go back through the area in a more slow, methodical manner.
After an hour of searching, Spivey drove into a parking lot above the downtown area.
I checked an upper parking lot, and at the far end of the parking lot saw what I believed to be the suspect vehicle. Excuse me, ma'am. Would you leave the area right now, please? Get on the other side of the lot. Sir, could you get away from that vehicle and go down towards the other end of the lot? Thank you. Baker 504 rear plate, 2233 Victor.
One plate matched the one from the bank robbery. And the other from the health clinic bombing. No one appeared to be inside.
I'll be backing off and standing by.
Explosives Disposal Unit Supervisor Sergeant James Goodwin, who helped defuse a bomb in a van after the April bank robbery, declared the vehicle an explosive hazard.
Given the history, we had a concern that this vehicle may contain a device as well. The natural thing to expect, given this was kind of the second go-around, was that having been unsuccessful the first time, they would try harder the second time.
Deputies smelled a strong gasoline odor. But again, it was difficult to see what kind of device might be inside. Rather than risk sending in a squad member, explosives disposal technicians once again deployed their specialized robot. The technicians operated the robot remotely from the safety of inside the EDU truck.
We sent the robot downrange in an effort to scout the vehicle and see what we could see.
The robot was equipped with a video camera, remote-controlled eyes for the explosives disposal unit. Technicians guided the robot to peer inside the van looking for a bomb.
The windows of this particular van had been darkened, so we weren't able to see much of anything at all.
They tried the robot's lights.
Oh, too much window tint on it. I can't see anything out of the back either.
There seemed to be something in the van, but the robot's camera still couldn't see clearly through the window tinting.
Can't see anything out of that window, can you?
They needed to know what the object was.
We elected to use the robot to shoot a window out of the van and open it so that we could see inside.
The technicians then activated the robot's water cannon disruptor, which fires a slug by water pressure rather than gunpowder, so sparks are less likely.
Take the shot.
All right. Nice job, boy. They did it.
You know, why don't we see if we can get some of that glass raked out of the window so we've got a good view of the inside.
They used the robot's powerful claw to clear the glass.
Once the window was broken, we were able to see inside the van and observe what appeared to be an incendiary device. It looks like a couple propane cylinders, timer, and I'm not sure what that is. Yeah, taped into the timer.
It looks like an initiator. Right down here? Yeah. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into the window.
It appeared that it was intended to initiate a fire in the van, burn the van, thereby leaving us very little evidence.
The explosives disposal technician guided the robot to clear the bomb from the van. He then moved the bomb to a more remote area so they could render it safe.
There it is.
They again used the water cannon disruptor.
Take your shot when you're ready.
Ready?
All right.
Just open it right up.
In the protective suit, a technician checked the bomb and confirmed it had been rendered safe.
Yeah, looks like he's all clear down there.
Once again, the suspects had used a stolen van.
Good. All right, good.
But this time, investigators found no manifestos or other evidence inside. Although there were 3 assailants in the latest robbery, the FBI believed the same individuals robbed the bank 3 months earlier. For help, they turned to forensic examiner Richard Vorderbrugge of the FBI's Audio, Video, and Image Analysis Unit. Similar clothing and weapons suggested 2 of the gunmen took part in both robberies. Vorderbrugge analyzed surveillance video to determine their heights.
I used a technique called perspective analysis photogrammetry. That involves taking a set of measurements of fixed objects within the scene, determining the specific perspective of the scene, that is to say, how the camera itself was related to fixed objects within the scene.
Because the cameras were facing downward, Vorderbrugge had to use complex mathematics to determine how actual size is reflected at that angle. He then compared the measurements of the fixed objects, such as a table leg, to the relative height of the bank robbers. He concluded the 2 robbers from the April 1st robbery were very likely 2 of the 3 from the July robbery.
One of them was approximately 5 feet 7.5 inches, and the second robber was approximately 6 feet 1 inch. And by finding, as I did, that the heights of the 2 individuals in the bank in each case were about the same, it certainly helped strengthen the case that they were the same people involved.
With the robberies and bombings likely committed by individuals calling themselves Phineas priests, the FBI elevated the status of the suspects.
We decided that they were not here for the sole purpose of robbing a bank and taking the money. These guys had a message that they were trying to get out to the public, and it was causing havoc in the city of Spokane. A lot of people were concerned about their safety, and as a result, the FBI felt like, you know what, these are terrorists.
To help capture the domestic terror suspects, the U.S. Bank offered a $100,000 reward. Despite the reward, a month passed with no new leads. Agents believed the terrorists were out there training, getting ready to strike again. After authorities linked several robberies and bombings in Spokane to a suspected group of domestic terrorists, the targeted bank offered a $100,000 reward, and the FBI released a composite sketch of the getaway driver. A month after the second bank robbery in August 1996, the reward offer generated a promising lead. An informant came forward saying he thought he knew the man in the composite sketch. The informant, a licensed firearms dealer, believed he met the man and a few others several months earlier. It was before the bank robberies began. He sold a group of men military clothing and equipment.
Merchandise that you guys ordered.
One of the men looked like the driver in the sketch. The informant said they asked about buying plastic explosives and a bazooka. Then they asked for his help outfitting their SUVs with tank armor and bipod-mounted machine guns, but he wanted nothing to do with such illegal activities. Before he left, one of them bragged that a small group of well-prepared men was going to bring the banking establishment to its knees. The informant said he met the men at an auto repair shop owned by one of them. The shop was located in the small town of Sandpoint, Idaho, about 75 miles northeast of Spokane. In late August, the FBI went to Sandpoint to investigate the lead. Agents rented an abandoned building with a view of the auto repair shop and discreetly watched the suspects as they outfitted their SUVs. FBI Special Agent Mark Cullinan believed they might have found the robbers.
When observing these subjects' daily activities, it was suspicious to us, first of all, that they didn't have any noticeable means of employment. That was an indicator to us that they're gaining money or the means to operate through other methods. Since we didn't know what had happened to the money from the bank robberies, this was a possibility.
Agents photographed the suspects and anyone seen on the premises.
One of the individuals we identified as Robert Berry. Berry ran an automotive repair shop in the Sandpoint area, but didn't seem to be doing any business, didn't seem to be using it to generate any income.
Agents identified a second suspect as Charles Barbie. Although Barbie had no record of convictions, he had been arrested for trying to buy supplies from military personnel. Barbie and Berry matched the heights of the bank robbers given by forensics experts. The FBI determined the third man was Vern Merrill. Merrill appeared to be the leader of the group, and he resembled witness descriptions of the getaway drivers seen at the bombings and bank robberies. Agents needed more information on the men. They took a risk to get it.
Go ahead and kill the light. Kill the light.
One night in early September, after the suspects left the shop, surveillance teams installed a hidden video camera on a telephone pole behind the garage. Agents didn't know if the area was booby-trapped or if they themselves were being watched. The teams got out safely.
Looks like they're shooting an assault rifle.
What the camera revealed was chilling. Agents watched the men test different weapons and types of bullets to see which could pierce the steel of car doors and the Kevlar of bulletproof vests. It was clear they were preparing for battle. During weeks of surveillance, the FBI tailed the suspects from the ground and the air as they drove to various cities in the Pacific Northwest. Agents believe the men were casing banks.
Suspects are heading west on Sprague Avenue.
On September 6, 1996, 2 months after the second robbery, the bank, newspaper office, and health clinic previously targeted received threatening letters promising further violent attacks.
Some sort of stationary surveillance plan.
Authorities developed contingency plans that would allow them to follow the robbers to their next target.
So far, they've hit us twice. They can't choose
Wherever it might be.
But that's not to say they couldn't take any of the other back roads down to meet or intersect I-90. So what we're going to have to do is come up with points far enough away that they can't take a back road and get around behind us before getting in their home territory up there.
A month later, on October 8th, investigators on the stakeout observed what they believed were final preparations for another bank robbery.
Okay, listen up, units. They're all leaving now. 3 white male occupants.
They contacted Special Agent David Bedford.
Idaho 69213. They're leaving now.
I received a phone call from the agent that was actually watching them load up. I started calling a lot of other coworkers saying, get in your car, start heading towards Sandpoint because something's going on and we need everybody up there as soon as possible. And so we began our surveillance, not knowing where they were going to end up.
The FBI tailed the suspects as they headed west out of Sandpoint. Their license plates indicated the truck was to be used in a crime.
The plates on the Suburban did not match front to rear, and both had been reported stolen. This also added a new sense of urgency to our investigation.
They followed the men 400 miles west, across the Oregon border.
The individual looks like he's breaking into a van.
In Hood River, Oregon, agents watched the men steal a van from a used car lot and add it to their convoy. If the FBI was correct, the suspects planned to use the stolen van in a bank robbery and abandon it afterwards.
We observed the vehicles stop at a truck stop where they shifted some gear between vehicles, they did some moving around and some planning, and then they departed again in one vehicle.
As agents shadowed the van, they realized where the suspects were headed.
By approximately 6 o'clock in the morning, we were hundreds of miles away from where we had started and on the outskirts of Portland. We watched them drive a meandering route into the city.
By 10 o'clock, it was clear which Portland bank the suspects intended to hit.
They're making a left into a parking lot. Appears to be a bank.
And as we watched them pull into one of the bank parking lots, we notified the bank. They immediately locked the doors to the bank, keeping all of their customers and everybody inside. And our plan was, as they exited the vans to go up and enter the bank to rob it, we were going to arrest them.
What do you think?
Agents waited for the suspects to make their move.
Good here. I like it. All right, they're in front of the bank.
I was approximately 30 yards away from them, and with my binoculars I could see exactly what they were doing inside the van, and that was pulling out their guns. They were donning masks, they were putting on their camouflage gear, and they were getting ready to make a break towards the bank. And it was at that time they saw the same things that we saw. The customers that were trying to get into the bank were unsuccessful because the bank had been locked.
It looked like the suspects were standing down. The field agents called in for instructions.
Let's keep surveillance on the vehicle.
Our agents were conferring with the United States Attorney's Office, with the heads of our divisions, and making a determination as to whether we had enough evidence at this point to arrest these subjects.
While the team conferred, surveillance units followed the stolen van as the suspects retrieved their Suburban.
They started driving back towards Washington, and we continued to follow them.
Try to take them down to the next safe location.
Soon they got the go-ahead for the arrest. Now they needed to find the safest opportunity to do so.
On the next stop, all units converge.
When the subjects stopped for gas at Union Gap, Washington, we decided that that was the best place that we had in order to effect an arrest.
But with such violent and heavily armed suspects, there was no guarantee of a safe arrest scenario. After months of investigating domestic terror suspects, surveillance units tailed them to a Union Gap, Washington gas station. Two of the suspects stayed in one of their vehicles, while the third entered the gas station. With the suspects split up, the lead agent put the operation in motion.
Temple.
They needed to synchronize the arrests, so all three suspects were surprised.
FBI, you're under arrest.
FBI, freeze the wheel. Hit the car. Hands on the wheel. Hit the car, bro. Put your hands on the car.
The bed of the vehicle.
Put your hands on the car.
Vern Merrill, Robert Berry, and Charles Barbie were arrested without a fight. Special Agent David Bedford discovered things could have gone much differently.
Following the arrest, we did a search of the vehicles they were driving. We found hand grenades, thousands of rounds of ammunition, probably half a dozen different types of weapons, gas masks, tear gas canisters. These guys were definitely ready for battle.
Agents also found a threatening letter to the Spokane bank that had been robbed twice. Despite the three arrests, the FBI knew one suspect was still at large.
One of the things that was a question in our minds was on the July 12th robbery, there was 3 people that came inside and a getaway driver. We were still unsure who the 4th robber was.
agents interviewed friends and associates of the arrested suspects. They learned the fourth man was most likely Brian Radigan.
One of the things that concerned the FBI was Brian Radigan's military experience. He apparently had some training in sniper school, and so the surveillance, the investigation that we did regarding Brian was very careful, very thought out.
Those who knew Radigan said he was heavily armed, well-trained, and paranoid.
Just throw that in there. All right. And if you don't mind.
The FBI wanted to avoid a violent confrontation, as did the suspect's family.
We solicited help from Brian Radigan's family members who, after talking to them for some time, felt that it would be in his best interest if he came forward and was arrested. And so the family members sent a train ticket to Brian and his wife.
The ticket was for a phony departure at a time when the FBI knew no other passengers would be at a Washington state train station. Undercover agents posed as station employees. When Radigan seemed at ease, they made their move. Radigan had no way to fight back or run. He and the others would be tried for their crimes, not their political or religious views.
The FBI does not investigate individuals or groups based on their beliefs. We investigate crimes. We investigated these acts because they were violent crimes. They were bombings, they were bank robberies. We investigated them as we would any other violent crime.
On July 24th, 1997, Charles Barbie, Robert Berry, and Vern Merrill were found guilty on 8 counts related to the bombings and armed robberies, and were each sentenced to life in prison. In a separate trial, Brian Radigan was found guilty of similar charges and sentenced to 55 years. Although that one Phineas Priesthood cell is behind bars, the FBI and experts like Spokesman Review reporter Bill Moreland know other domestic terrorist groups are still out there.
Since 1996, the number of militia cells has dropped off, but I believe there still are a number of them out there, and they're as hardcore and deeper underground than ever, and every bit as dangerous.
If these groups do commit crimes, the FBI will not stop until they are dismantled. In the United States, violent extremists embark on a campaign of terror nearly 2 decades before the Oklahoma City bombing. Bank robberies, bombings, escalating acts of destruction. When their agenda turns to murder, FBI counterterrorism experts team up with state police to stop a group of violent radicals before they strike again.
In the 1970s, a string of bank robberies and bombings spread fear and destruction along the East Coast. The FBI faced a new breed of criminal, the domestic terrorists. I'm Jim Kallstrom, former head of the FBI's New York office. For nearly a decade, these self-proclaimed revolutionaries operate underground. Law enforcement vowed to unearth them once and for all.
Interstate 80 is an isolated stretch of highway in northern New Jersey. On December 21st, 1981, Trooper Philip LaMonaco of the New Jersey State Police makes a routine traffic stop. The driver seems nervous. LaMonaco sees that he has a gun.
Put your hands up on the steering wheel. Put your license up on the dash. Step out of the vehicle now. Keep your hands up. Back up against the car now. Stay there. Don't move. Just stay there. Got any more weapons on you? Keep stay there. Don't you move. Yes, sir. Stay in the car. Stay in the car, sir. Stay in the car. Stay in the car, sir.
A passing motorist spots the empty police cruiser and stops. He checks to make sure everything is all right. In the snow, he sees the road trooper, bleeding and motionless. He uses the police radio to call for help.
State Trooper Barracks, go ahead.
I'm here on I-80. I've met a patrol car.
What's your name, sir?
Troopers on duty at the Blairstown State Police Barracks are surprised to hear a civilian voice on their radio.
Trooper's on the ground. He's motionless. I think he's been shot. Not moving at all.
Stay in the car, sir. We're on the way.
All available troopers respond to the report of the shooting.
We have an officer shot. Officer down.
Charles Coe is a major with the New Jersey State Police.
Virtually every road trooper that was on duty that day responded to the scene. We're all basically road troopers to start with. That's where we started from. We all knew the dangers involved, and of course you never think it's going to happen to you, and you really don't think it's going to happen to someone like a Phil LaMonaco.
LaMonaco is a legend in the department. Arriving at the scene, Lieutenant Richard Ryan can't believe he's been shot.
Initial shot struck Phil in his chest area. He was wearing a bulletproof vest, but the impact of the shots kind of turned him a little, and one of the shots went in under his armpit and went directly into his heart and basically killed him, that one shot.
Investigators find LaMonaco's service revolver empty. All 6 rounds fired, indicating the trooper had gone down fighting. Lieutenant John Mendres processes the crime scene, finding further evidence of the gun battle.
I obtained pieces of glass fragments, 12 9mm bullet casings at the scene. They were in the snowbank and in the general area.
From the size and number of bullet casings, Mendres believes the murder weapon is a 9mm semi-automatic pistol. He searches for the gun, but it is nowhere to be found. EMTs transfer Philip LaMonaco's body to the hospital as 250 police officers go after his killer. New Jersey and Pennsylvania State Police stop and question motorists. One man remembers seeing 2 men as they left the scene. They were driving a 1977 Chevy Nova with Connecticut license plates. Police set up checkpoints along the Delaware River. Officers search miles of highway and back roads looking for the killers.
The response was overwhelming. People were coming out of the woodwork to help us and offer leads and try to help us find the car, find the people responsible for this.
Hours later, a narcotics detective and a state trooper find the Nova. The car has been abandoned on a rural road 3 miles from the crime scene. Detectives find an empty holster. Troopers search the vehicle for clues. They find several bullet holes in the car's exterior.
It was a shot pattern into the hood of the car, into the windshield, and the right front passenger window was shot out, which indicates that he was shooting at the passenger.
Investigators suspect it was likely the passenger of the car who murdered Phil LaMonaco. The driver was in such a hurry to ditch the vehicle, he left behind a crucial piece of evidence.
On the dashboard in plain sight was a Connecticut driver's license in the name of Barry Eastbury.
For now, Eastbury's name and address are investigators' only link to Lamonaco's killer.
And I actually left that scene with another trooper and immediately drove to Connecticut to follow up that lead that night. And we proceeded to the address that was in downtown New Haven, Connecticut.
The address on the Eastbury driver's license turns out to be a hotel rather than a residence.
So it was turning out to be a dead-end lead. We met with the FBI later in the morning, and they told us that they had been at that same hotel a few months earlier following a lead-up on an individual by the name of Raymond Luke Levasseur.
Levasseur is one of the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives. Agents believe he is the leader of a violent radical group called the Sam Melville Jonathan Jackson Unit. The FBI suspects the group of masterminding a series of bank robberies and bombings. Now investigators wonder whether the group is also responsible for the murder of Trooper Phil Lamonaco.
I'd like to take those prints and see if we can match them up.
Agents send Levasseur's file to the state lab in New Jersey to compare his fingerprints with those found in the Nova.
Unfortunately, none of them matched, which we could not believe. It just didn't make any sense.
Ryan takes a closer look at Levasseur's wanted flyer.
I reread the flyer, and on the bottom in small print, right at the last line, it said, "May be accompanied by Thomas William Manning."
FBI agents pull Manning's file. The photo on his wanted poster is the man they know as Barry Eastbury. Examiners match Manning's file fingerprints to those lifted from the Nova, confirming that Barry Eastbury is an alias for Thomas Manning. If Manning is involved in the murder of Philip Lamonaco, investigators are up against a dangerous fugitive. According to FBI files, Manning met Levasseur in prison, where they both served time on drugs, weapons, and robbery charges.
He's been involved in several bank robberies.
The two men formed a radical group called the Melville Jackson Unit, according to Special Agent Leonard Cross.
They were well versed in a lot of guerrilla tactics. They studied guerrilla manuals. They studied a lot of the radical left literature from the late 60s, the mid 60s, and the early 70s.
The group began a reign of terror, claiming responsibility for 7 bombings in Massachusetts and New York between 1976 and 1979, including the bombing of 2 courthouses, the Middlesex County Courthouse in Lowell, Massachusetts, and the Suffolk County Courthouse in Boston, where 20 people were injured. According to their propaganda, the Melville Jackson Unit targets institutions and businesses to protest government and corporate policies they believe are unfair. FBI Special Agent Ed Peterson is investigating the radical group.
I think they viewed themselves as some champion of the downtrodden, the poor. Actually, they never did anything for the poor, and, all they were committed to were acts of violence.
Agents believe the group funds its violent political agenda with bank robberies, carefully planned operations that are executed with military precision.
It was obvious that these people were not your everyday criminals. They were an organized criminal group who were traveling the New England states and committing numerous crimes, the most serious, obviously, the murder of Trooper Lamonaco.
On Christmas Eve, 1981, 2,000 law enforcement officers from several states attend the funeral of Trooper Lamonaco. The wave of support overwhelms his wife, Donna.
I was just amazed that all the way up, it was a good half mile from the church, cars had started to park to come to the funeral.
Phil Lamonaco was one of the most respected troopers in the state of New Jersey.
He was a great trooper. He really, really was. And I think one of the main things that made him a great trooper was he really, really loved and respected his job. He was one of the good ones.
He was the idol of a lot of young troopers. He had trained a lot of young troopers in the tactics of stopping cars and looking for contraband in vehicles on the highway.
Superintendent Clinton Pagano makes Donna LaMonaco a solemn promise. The New Jersey State Police will do everything in their power to bring her husband's killers to justice.
I just could see in his eyes the sincerity, and I just knew he would make sure that from that point is where I grew confidence in knowing they're going to get caught. Whoever they are, they're going to be found and they're going to get caught, because he promised me.
At a nearby municipal building, New Jersey and Pennsylvania State Police work closely with the FBI to find the men who murdered Trooper LaMonaco. The task force follows up on dozens of leads. Firearms investigators ask gun shop owners in the area if anyone has sold 9mm ammunition to a man named Barry Eastbury.
They got a hit in Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, which is right across the river from the shooting.
3 months earlier, a Barry Easterly, not Eastbury, had purchased 9mm ammunition at a gun shop in Stroudsburg. The name seems too close to be a coincidence. If these were the bullets used in the killing, the 3-month time span is an important clue.
We felt that these people resided in this general area. They weren't just passing through. We were working very closely with the Pennsylvania State Police at that time. We notified them about this find.
Pennsylvania State Police.
2 days later, the Pennsylvania State Police receive an unusual phone call.
They left their dog?
A local landlord calls with a complaint.
The Pennsylvania State Police was notified by a fellow by the name of Charles Miller, who lived in Marshall's Creek, Pennsylvania, directly across the river in the greater Stroudsburg area.
Miller owns several rental properties in the area. A dog has been abandoned inside one of his houses. He's not seen the tenants for nearly 2 weeks. According to Miller, the house was rented by a man named Barry Easterly. SWAT teams converge on the rented farmhouse.
Get out! Get out! Get out!
They search the house from room to room. Whoever lived there left in a hurry. The occupants of the house had abandoned clothing, personal photos, and even their dog. In one room, police find radical literature and a sketch featuring an AK-47 assault rifle. In the bedroom, they find the tools of domestic terrorists.
The map again. We found all types of paraphernalia, information on how to make bombs, bomb-making material.
Police also find 9mm bullets, the same caliber that killed Trooper Phil LaMonaco. They believe the rented property is a safe house, where Thomas Manning, his wife and children, lived at the time of the LaMonaco shooting.
Everything in this trunk, we've got bomb-making materials.
Investigators find documents that offer fresh insight into the radical group's operations.
Especially this right here.
They apparently were planning to pull a bank robbery in Allentown, Pennsylvania.
That's good.
We had those schematics. We also found a critique of the bank robbery where several policemen were killed a few years before that. And all of these things they had to leave behind because they left in such haste.
In another bedroom, Sergeant Tom Evans finds a small phone book.
We began to write down all the phone numbers were in that book. There were no names, there were nicknames, and there was no area code.
Police also find a photograph of a man they can't identify. According to the landlord, the man in the picture lived in the Mannings' guest room. The family referred to him as Uncle David. Investigators wonder if Uncle David was Manning's passenger the night of the shooting, and whether he is responsible for the murder of Trooper Philip LaMonaco. The search for a cop killer evolves into a manhunt for a group of domestic terrorists. A raid on an abandoned Pennsylvania farmhouse yields two important clues: a mysterious photograph and a book of telephone numbers. Dozens of phone numbers are listed. Sergeant Evans of the New Jersey State Police notes that none of them have area codes.
Trooper said to me, "Those look like Boston phone exchanges." The next morning, we went to Boston and we started to run down the phone numbers to see who we could come up with. There were at least 100 phone numbers in there. One of them had a little note on it that said rent.
How you doing, sir?
The telephone number belongs to a company in Boston that rents out apartments. Investigators meet with the manager.
Possibly one of your tenants?
I showed him the picture. He said to me, "Trooper, I'm sorry, but I hardly ever see these people. They just mail in their checks."
It looks like another dead end. The police give the phone book another look. Next to the rental company's phone number, someone has written a figure: $275.
So I said to the guy, "Do you have any apartment building or apartments that rent for $275?
The manager tells them the company has only one apartment that rents for that amount. It is currently vacant and being renovated.
So we rushed up there and stopped them from repainting the apartment. Massachusetts State Police got their forensic people in there.
The apartment has been thoroughly cleaned, but investigators find fingerprints in obscure places, on a light bulb, and behind the toilet in the bathroom. The tenant left no forwarding address, according to the building supervisor.
So at that point, the guy said to me, "Well, you ought to talk to his girlfriend."
At 2 o'clock in the morning, police interview the suspect's girlfriend.
Is there any information or anybody that you know?
Although she does not tell investigators who her boyfriend really is, she gives them the name of his stepfather. The next morning, Lieutenant Evans drives to the suburbs outside Boston to question the suspect's stepfather.
I showed him the picture and he said, "What has Dickie done now?" And I said, "Dickie who?" And he said, "Dickie Williams." We called the command post, gave him Richard Charles Williams' name. They ran that name against the fingerprints that we had, and bingo, it was him. So we had the second person identified.
Richard Williams was Thomas Manning's passenger the night Phil LaMonaco was murdered. The violent radical is now wanted as a cop killer. Investigators on the case face an extraordinary challenge: finding a group of fugitives who are as elusive as they are dangerous. New England authorities and the FBI join ranks to track down Manning, Levasseur, and Williams. Special Agent Ed Peterson is assigned to assist the New Jersey police in the manhunt.
It was really important, as far as the FBI and all of law enforcement, to put them under a magnifying glass and to look at every possible contact, to try to think like they would think, to try and get into that mindset and to understand, what motivated them and where they would look to go.
The task force sifts through hundreds of hours of intelligence on the Melville Jackson unit. According to their files, the fugitives have a history of using different aliases to conceal their identities, and various mail drops to hide their locations.
We knew that we had a tough job because they did not remain in one place. They didn't do the conventional things that fugitives generally do. They went to such extremes to hide their identities.
In 1981, a man walks into the town clerk's office in Brattleboro, Vermont with an unusual request. He needs a copy of a birth certificate for an infant who died in the early 1950s. The clerk becomes suspicious.
Can you excuse me for a minute?
Brattleboro is a small town, and she knows the infant's family.
How you doing, sir? Do you have any ID on you?
Is there a problem?
No problem, sir. I just need to see your ID.
Get on the ground, what don't do it. Get out, now, get down, get down, down, get down, get down.
Police later identify the man as Raymond Levasseur after finding his fingerprints in an abandoned vehicle nearby. They suspect he was trying to establish a new identity by stealing the birth certificate of a dead infant.
Headed out in the parking lot. It's a white male.
In January 1982, Thomas Manning joins Levasseur on the FBI's 10 most wanted list. Authorities turn up the heat on the fugitives. 4 months later, FBI agent John Markey responds to the scene of a bank robbery. Two masked gunmen had stolen $60,000 from a bank in Burlington, Vermont. According to Agent Markey, the precision of the operation points to the Melville Jackson unit.
All three individuals that went into the bank went in right after an armored car delivery. One man stood in the lobby. The other two vaulted the counter. One of them took the money from the teller drawers. The other one took the money that had just been delivered.
The money in the teller drawers was rigged with die packs.
They look like a stack of money. When you take them out of a bank, there's an electronic sensor that causes them to activate. And then within 7 seconds, they go off, letting off tear gas and a red dye, which dyes the money. They threw about $20,000 out the window because it had die packs in it. It was apparent to me that we ought to consider Raymond Levasseur and Thomas Manning and maybe his associate Richard Williams as possible suspects in that bank robbery.
2 months later, 3 men rob a bank in Syracuse, New York, netting $195,000. The MO is nearly identical to the Burlington robbery, but with one exception.
They only took the money that was delivered by the armored car. They did not take any of the money out of the teller drawers. That way they eliminated the possible die packs. It was my opinion that we were dealing with the same people who robbed the South Burlington branch, and you could account for the change of not taking money from the teller drawers because they would have discussed the die packs.
In just 2 months, over $235,000 has been stolen from area banks. Authorities are concerned that the Melville Jackson unit is amassing a war chest to finance a new wave of terror. With the threat of more bombings looming, investigators make a difficult decision. They will try to find the terrorists by looking for their children. Pictures of the Manning and Levasseur children are distributed to schools, sport clubs, and pediatricians in the area.
Hey, can you take a look at this and just see if you recognize any of these children?
That was very controversial. We had a lot of conversations as far as distributing the pictures of the children, because the children were innocent in this. They just were living with the parents. They were 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old kids.
Investigators feel they have no choice. The group is deadly, and lives are at stake.
You don't know any of the parents either, do you?
Unfortunately, the gamble does not pay off. The fugitives have hidden their children well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To make matters worse, the gang launches a series of new attacks. On December 16th, police in White Plains, New York, receive a frantic call. An unidentified man has phoned in a bomb threat to a local newspaper. According to the caller, the bomb has been planted in an office building. Fortunately, dozens of employees had evacuated before the building exploded. The blast destroyed nearly every window in the building. Inside, investigators find a communique from a group calling themselves the United Freedom Front. The UFF claims responsibility for the bombing. Agents on the case recognize the UFF's distinctive assault rifle logo.
United Freedom Front.
It is nearly identical to a sketch they found in Manning's safehouse.
We actually compared those side by side. And we decided that the logo looked enough, in our opinion, that it was them. We thought that the United Freedom Front, who took credit for that bombing, was in fact the new name for the people involved in the Lamonica killing.
That's them. That's them all right.
Over the next year, the UFF claims responsibility for 4 more bombings. On December 14th, 1983, they call the press to issue a chilling statement. They intend to destroy the offices of a national defense contractor in Queens, New York. The caller indicates that a statement from the group can be found in a Manhattan mailbox. The letter denounces U.S. involvement in Central America, the Caribbean, and the Middle East. The bomb squad recovers 2 suitcase bombs before they can detonate. Finding an intact bomb is an important break for Special Agent John Markey.
The materials used in that bomb were very similar to the materials used in the Sam Melville, Jonathan Jackson unit bombings in the 70s. The elements of the bomb that was similar was the type of clock used, that the crystal on top of the clock, a hole was melted into the crystal and a brass screw was screwed in to the crystal.
Special Agent Leonard Cross is familiar with the design. He investigated the group's early bombings in the 1970s. In February 1984, Cross becomes the coordinator of the task force hunting the killers. The investigation into the radical group is now in its 8th year. The terrorists have stayed a step ahead of authorities by repeatedly assuming new identities. Agent Cross and the FBI task force decide to take a new approach.
What we tried to do was plot where we knew they had lived, safe houses, where they had bombed, where they had committed bank robberies. So we started putting this all up on a map.
Slowly but surely, a pattern emerges. The group's activities are concentrated in a 4-state area that includes New York, Massachusetts, Vermont, and Connecticut. In the spring of 1984, the FBI launches Operation Western Sweep, a mission designed to close in on the dangerous fugitives. In 1984, the FBI launches Operation Western Sweep, a mission to apprehend 3 key members of a violent radical group. Agents believe the group has orchestrated numerous acts of domestic terrorism. The New Jersey State Police suspect one of the terrorists also murdered Trooper Phil LaMonaco. Hundreds of investigators comb areas where the group is known to operate.
We had the bombing.
As agents uncover the group's safe houses, the FBI deploys SWAT teams to search them. But the fugitives are always one step ahead, according to Detective Richard Ryan.
It was frustrating because we couldn't apprehend them, but we felt as long as they kept committing crimes, they were still out there, they hadn't gone into total hiding, there was a better chance we could catch them.
Agent John Markey tries to predict when the terrorists will strike again. Based on the group's unique lifestyle, he develops an ingenious theory.
There were a series of 4 bank robberies in 1982 and 1983 in upstate New York along Interstate 90 between Syracuse and Albany, New York.
Markey divides the total amount of money stolen by the number of days between robberies. He calculates that the group is operating on a budget of about $737 per day.
Based on that, you could predict when the next robbery would occur. I was predicting that the next robbery would be between June 1st and June 14th of 1984.
Markey's prediction is right on target. On June 9th, the gang hits a bank in Norfolk, Virginia. The ammo is familiar. 3 armed men enter the building. 2 of them jump the counter. They subdue bank personnel at gunpoint. Ignoring the cash in the drawers, they grab bags of money that have just been delivered by an armored car service.
They did not take any of the money out of the teledraws. That way they eliminated the possible die packs, bait money, and sounding the alarm.
The gang seems to be getting smarter with each new robbery. Investigators need a lead, however small, to break the case wide open. Special Agent Ed Peterson.
We knew no matter how good any fugitive thinks he or she is, no matter how good they think they are, some point and some time, they're going to make a careless mistake.
In the summer of 1984, the fugitives make that crucial mistake. On August 4th, the owner of a storage facility in Binghamton, New York, contacts the FBI. One of his customers hasn't paid his bill in 2 years. The manager opened the storage unit so he could auction off the contents. What he found inside terrified him.
The contents in there included materials on how to make bombs, how to handle firearms training, research on various corporations, and a lot of radical material, and a lot of Marxist-type literature.
Agents find bomb-making diagrams in the storage unit. They show a timer assembled with brass screws. Earlier in the investigation, agents found an unexploded bomb with similar brass screws at one of the group's targets. The bomb is designed to detonate a massive bundle of dynamite with a single electric charge. The distinctive design links Levasseur and his gang to bombings all over the Northeast. There are hundreds of pieces of evidence in the storage unit. Investigators follow up on every clue, no matter how obscure.
The magazines taken out of the storage bin in Binghamton, New York, at first nobody thought they would be of any value.
But an address label on an old seed catalog reveals a new name in the investigation: Jack Horning. Investigators trace the address to Ansonia, Connecticut. According to neighbors, the Horning family moved away years earlier.
The trooper that was assigned to this lead felt, again, we have another dead-end lead. However, he continued to interview people in the neighborhood, and he developed a babysitter who had lived a few houses down, and she babysat for the Horning children.
The teenager remembers the Hornings well. She tells the trooper that Mrs. Horning was a normal mom. The kids were well behaved. The entire time she worked for the Hornings, nothing out of the ordinary happened. But then she remembers one small incident.
One day she was out with Mrs. Horning and they had a motor vehicle accident.
On a hunch, the trooper follows up with the Connecticut Department of Motor Vehicles. He is unable to find an accident report involving a Mrs. Horning. But one report does match the time and location of the incident.
The key was that the babysitter was listed on the accident report as a passenger in that vehicle.
The name the driver gave police at the time was not Horning, but Himes.
This is interesting.
Judy Himes' Connecticut license has since expired. It was traded for a New York license in 1980.
From Connecticut to
Later, the New York license was turned in for an Ohio license. According to DMV records, the Ohio license is still current. Judy Himes' name, along with her address in Columbus, is forwarded to Sergeant Tom Evans.
So I called the Columbus Police Department. And I said, what is at that address? And the guy said to me, it's a mail drop. And a mail drop meant that's them, that's their MO, that's what they used. They didn't have mail sent to their homes.
Okay, let's go.
In Columbus, the FBI rents a vacant house across the street from the mail drop. From there, agents can monitor the facility with video cameras.
The mail drop is a 24/7 operation, so this was going to be difficult to surveil.
On November 3rd, 3.5 weeks into the stakeout, a woman arrives at the mail drop. Investigators visually identify her as the wife of Raymond Levasseur.
It's the first time now in probably over 10 to 12 years that any law enforcement agency had any of these people actually in sight under surveillance. So you can imagine how the adrenaline was pumping.
The fugitive's wife is law enforcement's only link to the terrorists. Rather than making an arrest, agents follow her, hoping she will lead them to her husband. In 1984, the FBI and a multi-state task force trail a group of domestic terrorists. The violent radicals are suspected of a series of bank robberies and bombings. And the murder of a New Jersey State Police trooper. Investigators track the group from a safe house in Connecticut to a mail drop in Columbus, Ohio. After nearly a decade, their only lead to the terrorists' location is the wife of gang leader Ray Levasseur. Agents follow her as she leaves the mail drop. They know that, like the rest of the group, Levasseur's wife is skilled at covering her tracks and at spotting a tail. They're careful to keep their distance, using aerial surveillance as a backup in case she slips away. Detective Richard Ryan.
She was on and off the highway numerous times, stopping, starting, looking around, taking local roads back onto the interstate, back off. So it was a difficult surveillance.
2.5 hours later, the target stops at a house in Deerfield, Ohio.
Once she arrived at the house, a surveillance was set up in the area from different locations as best as they could. And it was a very rural area. There were farmers' fields, cornfields, things of that nature.
New Jersey State Trooper Richard Tao watches the house from a distance.
Approximately 20 minutes later, a male subject left the house and got in his car and left the area.
The male subject is Richard Williams, the man wanted for the murder of New Jersey State Trooper Philip Lamonaco. FBI agents follow Williams to a safe house in Cleveland. They now have 2 houses under surveillance, 60 miles apart.
In one location, we had the suspected murderer of Trooper Philip Lamonaco. In the second location, we had top 10 FBI fugitive Ray Levasseur. Surveillances continued through the night and into the morning.
Around 9:40 a.m., the Levasseurs leave their house.
All right, fellas. Let me know when you're in position so we can go. Go, 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 go.
The SWAT team moves in. They arrest Ray Levasseur, along with his wife.
The call then immediately went out to Ohio, up to Cleveland, that Levasseur was in custody, so now a decision was made to raid the Cleveland, Ohio house.
In Cleveland, agents and police surround the home of Richard Williams. Williams, the suspected murderer and terrorist, gives up without a fight. After years of work, the task force has captured 2 of the group's 3 key men in less than an hour.
We had Ray Levasseur and his wife. We had Dickie Williams. The only remaining fugitives that we had was Tom Manning and his wife.
Agents question Richard Williams about Thomas Manning's location. Williams stalls for hours. With every passing moment, the fugitives have more time to escape.
Where is he?
Finally, Williams breaks down and reveals the addresses of 3 safe houses located in Jefferson, Ohio. One of them belongs to Thomas Manning.
We proceeded to that location and conducted a very extensive search.
Williams' stall tactics have given the Mannings enough time to flee, but not enough time to cover their tracks. Inside their safe house, investigators find handguns, fake IDs, and $32,000 in cash. They also find a 1,000-page record of the group's activities. In one room, agents find a police scanner tuned to a frequency used by the FBI. In another room, they find explosives and bomb-making supplies. They also find a bomb kit that contains distinctive brass screws that match unexploded bombs recovered in 1976 and 1983. They recover a 9mm semi-automatic pistol.
Smith & Wesson.
At the FBI forensics lab, technicians analyze the gun. They compare the bullet that killed Trooper Philip LaMonaco to bullets fired from the 9mm handgun.
We were able to determine that that was the weapon that was used to kill Phil LaMonaco.
Although they have finally found the murder weapon, tracing the owner of the gun will be difficult. The serial number has been filed off. Technicians use a chemical solution to raise the number. It is barely legible beneath the surface of the metal. Agents trace the 9mm to a gun shop in Norfolk, Virginia. There it was purchased by a woman named Deborah Ann Fury. Fury had listed an address in Virginia Beach. Investigators check out the location. It turns out to be another mail drop. The surveillance team waits to see who will collect the mail. When a woman arrives and opens the box, agents identify her. Deborah Ann Fury is in reality Thomas Manning's wife. The FBI has finally found a link to the last member of the radical terrorist group. In Ohio, the FBI and police have arrested key members of a violent radical group charged with robbery and domestic terrorism. One of them, Richard Williams, is suspected of killing a police officer. 2 of the group's members, Thomas Manning and his wife, are still at large. It has been 5 months since Manning and his family fled their safe house in the rural town of Deerfield. The FBI traces a gun found in the safe house to an address in Virginia Beach, Virginia. As it turns out, the address is another mail drop. After weeks of surveillance, agents spot the fugitive's wife picking up the mail. Special Agent Leonard Cross.
We knew she had a scanner and should be scanning for police radio frequencies as well as FBI frequencies. We had special radios that were all encrypted that could not be picked up. And the surveillance at this point took us north.
Manning's wife leads investigators to a safe house in Norfolk about 20 miles away. They do not want to arrest her until they can be sure her husband is at home. An hour later, investigators follow her to a nearby shopping center.
Get out! Get out! Get out! Get out!
As an arrest team takes her into custody, a second team moves in on the safe house. Manning is now outside, unaware he's being watched.
We had no weapons. The decision was made so no one would get hurt. This would be the time to make the arrest.
Get out! 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 Don't resist! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!
Thomas Manning, the last of the terrorists, is arrested in his own backyard. In 1987, Thomas Manning and Richard Williams stand trial in Somerville, New Jersey. Donna LaMonaco, the widow of Trooper Phil LaMonaco, attends the trial.
It was very important for me to be a part of the trial. I needed to be there. I needed to know exactly what went on. I wanted to make sure they were the two that killed Phil.
The two self-proclaimed revolutionaries are sentenced to life in prison for the murder of Trooper Philip LaMonaco. They receive additional sentences for their roles in a series of bank robberies and bombings starting in 1975. In separate trials, the wife of Thomas Manning is found guilty of conspiracy and sentenced to 15 years. Raymond Levasseur receives 45 years in prison for his role in the group's terrorist activities. His wife is released after spending several months in custody.
I think it's really important to set the record straight that these individuals, Levasseur, Manning, Williams, they were nothing but criminals. These guys want to call themselves as freedom fighters, revolutionaries. At the end of the day, they were criminals. And that's the bottom line. I mean, when you commit bank robberies, when you set off bombs, when you kill a police officer who's only out there doing his job, they were nothing more than criminals.
After the trials, members of the New Jersey State Police visit Phil LaMonaco's grave for the very first time.
We went as a group to his gravesite. We felt that we had the respect of Phil. He would know that we had done our best.
2 decades after Philip LaMonaco's death, people still leave flowers and flags on the side of the New Jersey highway he protected.